edition. My name is Godwin Sunday. Well, it's Good Friday edition of The Desk. And of course, just in case you don't know what Good Friday is all about, let me put the Good Friday in perspective first and foremost before we delve into other issues that we'll be discussing even here on The Desk. First is that Good Friday is also known as Black Friday. It's also known as a Holy Friday. It's known by many as Great Friday. It's also known as Great and Holy Friday. Friday of the Passion of the Lord is a solemn Christian holy day commemorating the crucifixion of Jesus and his death at Calvary at Golgotha. Well, it is also observed during the Holy Week as part of the Paschal Triduum. Members of many Christian denominations, including the Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Lutheran, Anglican, Methodist, Oriental Orthodox, United Protestants, and some Reformed traditions, including certain Continental Reformed, Presbyterian, and Congregationist churches, observe Good Friday with fasting and church services. In many Catholic, Lutheran, and Anglican Methodist churches, the service of the great 3 hours agony is held from noon until 3 p.m. The hours the Bible records darkness covering the land until Jesus' death on the cross. Well, a Good Friday signifies a lot of things to different people. All right, so at this point in time, we want to get you involved in the conversation. We want you to follow us right now across all our social media platforms now showing on your screen using @Global TV NG. To follow us, let's know from your own perspective, what does the Good Friday mean to you? What does the Easter Friday, you can call it the Great Friday. What does it mean to you? And what are your prayers? What are your thoughts? What are your expectations even for this month, for this Holy Friday, which is Good Friday? Well, we went out today also to feel the pulse of Nigerians and also observe the festivity in terms of the crucifixion of Christ, which Catholics call the Passion of the Christ. Of course, we were out today to observe it's been carried out, and we got to speak with few parishioners on what they think about the Good Friday celebration. Now, here is a report that we did today. When we finish, we'll come back into the studio and delve into pressing conversations. Please stay with us as the show continues after this clip. With Easter just around the corner, this vivid display in Abuja has not only told a story, but also stirred hearts, reminding all of the ultimate sacrifice and the hope that comes with the resurrection. It was a solemn yet awe-inspiring scene at Our Lady of the Rose Catholic Church in Garki, where actors took to the stage and streets, recreating the suffering, crucifixion, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. The Passion Play, organized by local churches in collaboration with faith-based organizations, drew spectators from across the Federal Capital Territory. This event was marked by prayers, worship songs, and moments of silence.
Pick him up! Pick him up!
God, you gave us.
While speaking with journalists, His Grace Archbishop Ignatius Kaingama reels out the significance of Good Friday and calls on leaders to reflect on the lessons of the season.
The agony he went through, the betrayal he went through, the cruel crucifixion he endured. He was treated like a criminal, and all that he did in order to save us and to redeem us. And those the society considered very low. Zacchaeus, a sinner, a tax collector, he associated with him. So he is showing us that leadership should be in. So we call on our leaders to be selfless in doing this. Once you have been chosen or elected or given an appointment. It's for the common good, it's for the service of the people.
Many in attendance described the experience as life-changing.
The significance of Good Friday is a date that death is recognized and life is recognized. Suffering, death, and life. So it's very significant because it told us towards a clear understanding of what this life is. Life is not about gains. Life is about sacrifice and results.
It is very important to know as a child of God that we that call ourselves a child of God, we need to behave like a child, and we need to live a Christ-like, because Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. So we as the children, we need to behave like him.
Okay, it actually tells what Christ underwent through for my sake, for me as a child of God. If Christ had not gone through this, there wouldn't be Christianity today, and we wouldn't have called ourselves Christian. So to me, it's a time of, like I said, is a time of sober reflection. Let us reflect on our lives, our past, and then seek for forgiveness.
Godwin Sunday, reporting for Global Television News. An interesting one, Good Friday celebration. Of course, seeing the passion of the Christ being displayed by Christian faithful out there. It was quite a welcoming development, even as it stands right now. But then again, there are a lot of questions that one begin to ask at this point. At first, when I saw the blood from the actors there, I felt it was real. How good is good when it has to do with the passion of the Christ? And this becomes like a recurring thing where you get to flog the person. Is it actual cane? Is it actual beating? Is it actual discipline? And all of that. It's just mere acting. Well, a lot of questions. I was spellbound of doing that report. And of course, I said, I'll ask those questions even to people of the Christian faith. But then we will go for a short break right now. When we come back, we will delve into our first conversation for today, which has to do with sustainability developmental goal, which is popularly known as SDGs. We'll talk about it, then we'll talk more even on the desk. Please stay with us as the desk is just starting. back. And just in case you're just joining us, this is The Desk here on Global Television, and my name is Godwin Sunday. Well, joining me to talk about climate change advocacy in Nigeria is Boluwatife Adekoye, and we'll be talking about SDG goals as it affects Nigeria and assessing the impact of the SDGs goal, how far we've come as a people, and what are the steps that we need to also put on ground to ensure that we fast track the process, knowing fully well that 2030 is just by the corner. But first, let me welcome you to the show. Boluwatife, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Good evening.
All right, let's delve into the conversation. First, what is climate change advocacy all about?
Okay, climate change itself, right? From the SDG, which we have the 17 goals, that comes as the combination of the units of countries that came together at certain points to reach an agreement looking at the problems that is facing the whole world at large. So they came up with the 17 goals, which climate change has to be number 13 on that goal. And so when we are talking about its advocacy so far, it has been a push since everyone understanding what the effect of climate change is to us in the society. So because of that, we've gone into advocacy over the time, whereby we've been pushing to ensure that government, citizens, all are aware of climate change. And climate change as it could stand, not coming from the bulky aspect of divination. So climate change is simply about you knowing about the temperature. As we all know what is going on, especially in Abuja that we are at the moment, we know the effect of heat that we've experienced, the heat stroke that has emanated, and due to the depletion of the ozone layer and the effect of the sun upon us. So I think that is just what climate change is to
All right.
each and everyone.
So let's talk in terms of the orientation and the educational aspect of advocacy. Now, we understand that in every studies, there's a cognitive orientation, there's an affective orientation, there's an effective orientation. We'll begin to evaluate what has been taught in all of this. But let's begin from looking at it, advocacy in itself. At what stage does the advocacy for SDG becomes necessary? Is it from primary school, secondary school, or the tertiary institutions?
Oh, beautiful. I love that question because at the moment we've been pushing that not just from the tertiary institution should know about SDGs, even from as low as the primary basic education. Everybody should know what SDG is all about. We are talking about sustainability here. We are talking about development here. The children there also, in a little bit, should cultivate that habit. It is by the knowledge of what the teacher knows that you imbibe into your children. And they say when you train your child, right, it will not depart from it. So starting from that credo, for them understanding that as little as this action, right, you taking this little action of not littering your environment, taking care of your environment as it relates with climate, for example, that proper hygiene is very important, right? So as little as that, you pass the message to that credo. And when you do that, the child will not depart from it. So as at that level, every knowledge that we need to push out there, and we've gone to the extent of creating card games that talks about climate change, whereby those little children too, when they have it in their schools, and we've even started pushing for climate clubs in institutions, that is as low as basic institutions in their libraries, for them also having climate clubs in their schools, for them also to be able to say, oh, this is what climate is. This is the reason why the heat is this much, that I'm affecting it this much. Then I must take certain actions. I must take actions. Then in me taking that action, we contribute to reducing the effect of climate change that we are experiencing at the moment.
All right, so can one now say that the low awareness that most primary school children have is as a result of low educators that are there to educate them? Because a lot of teachers don't even know about some of these SDG goals that you're talking about.
Okay. As it stands, truly the advocacy, activists, everybody are trying every bit to pass the message. Hence why we are not staying to just organizing conferences to just the mere people, especially the tertiary institutions, right? So that is why we initiated, for example, that card game that we talk about, by one of the NGOs that was pushing that move at a time, called the Plan Game, whereby you play to learn and take action about the climate change, right? So, and every other, should I say, structure when it comes to NGOs are also buying into that ideas in their various sub areas to ensure that let's go out there, let's advocate by establishing what? A climate club in some institutions. Personally, I've gone out, and I would say even from my very beginning of getting exposed to what climate change is, one of my moves at that point was going out in one of our schools here in Abuja, in a government secondary school then, to go and train the children about how you can turn waste to wealth. And we expose them to the basic knowledge and the practical aspect of turning your nylon into bricks, turning plastic in, and in the course of that, imbibing it into their mindsets, right? And so many other initiatives like that that I've personally pushed out there. We've gone for orientations in schools where they help welcomed us with all hearts, and we carry out those projects. Most especially, I had one last year, right? And we've been doing series of sections like that.
But Bolu, I'm tempted to ask, is the climate change advocacy and education, is it class-based? Is it meant for people on the urban area to be more educated about some of the climate and ozone layer deplections that we have? People from the urban area tend to get to be more aware. The advocacy tend to be one-sided without people from the rural area even understanding what is going on. We've had a case in Papi when there was a rumble in Papi and somewhere in the FCT, and it was attributed to a spiritual attack. All of this is just one aspect. If you get to rural community, climate change also affects them, but they don't get to be educated. So I'm asking, as an educator, as an advocate, is this all advocacy thing? Is it centered on class system?
Okay. At the moment, all push are being made to ensure that we have this structured in the curriculum of our institution, right? And reviews are ongoing regarding that, since we now know the urgency of it. We are privileged that one platform just created a manual base of climate, that is a climate manual book that is meant to use across schools to make them understand more about the climate change. Is it only urban based? No. As you've said, the rural, even I would say people from the rural aspects, rural settlements, are even more at the detriment end of climate change. And everyone is meant to be involved. At Kaduna, the person sitting there as a special assistant on climate change at the moment, based on the push for climate change, right, that the government there deem it fit to have an office for that, presently is translating the understanding of climate change to Hausa to ensure that Hausa-speaking communities can understand what climate change is, right? And at the same time, to every other sectors like that we are trying to say, let us imbibe this climate change talk, because it's affecting everyone one way or the other. We've gone from the era where the only understanding you have the world is flat, and later they came back, the world is spherical. And that began the transformation of technology, right? And so it is now that people are hearing about climate change and they tell you, it's not real, it's not this, it's not that. But we are feeling the bonds of the climate change.
And it's not spiritual.
And it's not spiritual. Yeah, that is even another most interesting part. It is not spiritual. Biblically, we are pushing in, should I say, in the religion interfaith push that we are doing at the moment. One of my friends just had the faith conference, right? Just had the faith conference where he brought both Christians, Muslims, everybody together. And also another organization just released their reports about the push they did last year and this year regarding an interfaith push to ensure that even from the religion place, we get to make them understand that climate is not a spiritual issue, but that is based on our day-to-day activities, be it from the West that is impacting us badly at the moment, that we now need to let our people understand, since Nigeria, Africa at large, is more of a religion aspect, and we must make our pastors and our imams to understand this. But from Genesis chapter 1, verse 28, after verse 27 already talking about, we are created in God's image, this and that. 28 talks about we should go forth, right, and be fruitful and multiply and replenish and subdue, right? The word replenish there has a big meaning. And the big meaning is restoration. So based on your activities, you cut down tree, you have to replenish your activities that you've carried out on the earth, right? To planting another tree. So we must imbibe that idea into our people that when we cut the tree, plant another one. You need firewood. But by the time you all cut the tree, will you have any firewood any longer? That becomes a big problem, right? So, and some other aspect like that. So based on our activities, we are also meant to replenish that restoration so that by the time you replenish, you'll be able to have access more and the circle keeps moving. And yeah.
Interesting. But there tends to be this misconception when it has to do with climate change. And one of those misconceptions is that a lot of persons will say that European countries are the major cause of the climate change that that is affecting Africa. And thereby they're telling Africans to deforestate and all of this. They tell Africans to conserve, to not eat bushmeat, as it's being called, wild animals. But then it's just a narrative. It's a misconception. But I want you to help us, put us in perspective. How correct or otherwise is this assertion?
Okay. So when it comes to statistically now, fine, for Africa, we're at 4%, right? When it comes to the effects of climate change on us. And it is this bad on us, right? From the West, truly, urbanization, be as it may, from there, which has led to the issue of industries and pollutants and the rest that has led to the depletion of the ozone layers. And based on, because the world, as we've talked about, is spherical, sphere in shape, right? And the circle of the actions that is going on is revolving. So because it's revolving, it's also coming. That is what has emanated together to making the 4%, and also still based on our own activities here in Nigeria, in Africa at large. So, but by the time, find they are at fault already, but we too should not continue making the mistakes that they already made before we start getting it right. Since we've known their mistake, right, let us now ensure that in the course of us pushing for our own development, that we want to meet at that level of saying we are now at the #1 world class when it comes to industrialization, coming to this, let's start imbibing sustainability practice. So that before we say, oh, we are doing the normal way they were doing then, for us to grow when it comes to development, and we will start having the more bonds of the effect of climate change, let us start the sustainability practice now as we are moving for development.
So doesn't this seem like robbing Peter to pay Paul? Doesn't this again seems like African Nigerian will have to stunt our growth in order to pay off for urbanization in European countries? No. In the light of this conversation, because we need to get the records straight so that people can make informed decision out there, can we say at this point in time that this is robbing Peter to pay Paul?
Okay, this is it. The illustration I will make in this is this. Two people are moving, one at the front, one at the back. The front person is going, and you see that that person fell into a pit, right? Must you, because we are trying to say, oh, robbing Peter with Paul, with that context, now say, he too should also follow that path to also fall inside that pit? No. So rather, let's look for a sustainability measures that, based on what they are also facing, that we've started, through technology, they've started, right? That we too, in the course of us now saying we are developing, we don't go into falling in that pit. Rather, we'll be able to what? Jump that hurdle seamlessly. So that is just the analogy.
Well, interesting conversation so far. But Bolu, let's move the conversation a bit further in terms of some of the challenges that as tend to greet this section or this segment of but you are a field person, more of a field person, you're a practitioner and you're an advocate for SDG. It seems that the SDG tend to be the implementation in Nigeria tend to be very slow as it stands right now. And 2030 is just by the corner. And the target is to 2030. First question is, what are the challenges that is even making us to be dragging our foot in terms of implementing the SDG goals in the country? Let's deal with the first, then we'll move on to the other ones.
Fine. Yeah. When it comes to this, firstly is, we'll say, the knowledge gap, right? So when it comes to knowledge gap, we find it in the sense that just the way we are saying, oh, it's myth, climate change is myth. It's not this, it's not real, right? So people are trying to not even look at that aspect at all. And that, again, people don't, they say if you want to hide anything for Africa, put it inside the book, right? So it becomes a big, make more analysis to be very sure about this. So as a person, when I came across the journey of SDG, I sat down, I did my research, and I was like, based on my concern for humanity, these 17 goals are what is really affecting humanity, be it positively or negatively, right? Which, as we all know, is for Africa as it stands. So when you are saying number one of advocate of SDG is talking about no poverty, right? Is there no poverty in the land? Zero hunger, 2. Is there no hunger on the land?
As a matter of fact, we've been thrown to below poverty line.
Oh, so why won't I take such conversation very serious? Good health and well-being, number 3. We need good health. So hence I begin to look. Truly, this is very important. We talk about quality education itself. That is number 4. And so if that is it, then I am who I am today because I've put myself for more learning to understand it. So I need to push myself to that limit. So if I'm pushing myself to that limit, then when we are now saying quality education, how much more those people in that rural area that are just one teacher to a whole, probably 2 classrooms and the rest, isn't it? So we must reshape the place of our education to meet the necessary needs. That is another aspect, right? We talk, 6 is talking, 5 talks about equality, 6 talks about sanitation, water, and the rest. So when you're talking about sanitation and water, we all need quality water to drink, proper sanitation, right? And the flow keeps decent work. Those are part of the SDGs coming to climate change, right? And economic growth. We talk about sustainability cities, right? You talk about the way you consumption of your products, right? Your waste. How do you manage them? 16 talks about peace, right? Security, peace, law, and to be law-abiding, right? 17 talks about the partnership for all the goals. And I begin to look at every of these things, and I said, oh, if truly this is what all countries came together based on what we are facing in in the world at large, to say this is a matter for discussion. We've zeroed everything to this. Then, as a person who is compassionate to humanity, I thought this needs to be reviewed for me to take it very serious. That was where my journey of SDG comes into place. So it is to everyone there to all buy into these conversations and being able to say, we are all advocates to this. We are all nobody can run away from it. Most especially now, SDG 13, which is the climate that we are talking about. We find ourselves on this earth. This is the earth where we can what? Replenish, be fruitful and multiply. Hence why God has placed us here. So a place where God has placed you to replenish, multiply, to be fruitful, then you're supposed to take every bit of what will make you stay safe on it, right? You're supposed to take it very serious. And I think that is where the climate change conversation comes into place. So it is everybody's responsibility.
So invariably you're saying that there is no challenge with the field, that there's no reason why the implementation of the SDG goals in Nigeria has not been so smooth and running. There are no challenges.
The challenge there now is that our people, because of not reading, not taking it serious, right, has created that gap. So it is on to those few people who sees the reason the way I've seen it, right, keep pushing it. And in the course of our pushing, we've win in a big feat, right? But still, it's not to how we expect because of some other challenges, which comes to the political will, because for everything we are doing, we need the government to come into place. We need the citizens themselves to buy into it, most especially the citizens, because when we all buy into it, that will reflect in the way our politicians themselves, that is, they are hearing our voice, and we will keep pushing to the get.
All right, so Bolu, in your own observation, let's put you on the spot. In your own observation and in your own assessment, how will you assess the impact of climate change advocacy in Nigeria so far?
Okay, when it comes to that, the impact with the few people at hand, right, pushing this so far, we've had from us allowing the government to hear us, right? Hearing our plea that this is very, very important. One of the milestone achievements was that right from the Ministry of Environment, they created the Department of Climate Change, right? I believe it's all about a slight edge approach. It's a slight edge approach whereby we take it one after the other. So having the Department of Climate Change, we've pushed further. We now have the NCCC, which is the Nigeria Climate Change Council, right? That they has their secretary, they has their DG at the moment, who are also pushing for that phase, right? We've come by with creating the Climate Change Act, right? We've come by with, at the moment, working on the national, that is the NAP, that is the National Action Plan that is ongoing through the NCCC that is ongoing at the moment. So that is why I call it a slight edge approach. So it's a gradual process. Fine, if it is to human, that maybe it should have been more, the approach should have been much more than what it is right now. But with the creation of those council, for example, has pushed the growth, right? Especially in the past few weeks, I've been involved with the NCCC, for example, and I've seen the level of engagement so far in that they ensure that all that is needed in aspect of government policy formations to ensure that when it comes to policy formations, that we have the policy at hand, at least, both as it affects the states. So we are pushing to the substations nations right now, which they too are also creating their own NAP acts to ensure that as it affects them in their own state, it's reflected in that. The federal NAP, it's on its own. They are working on that. The sub-regions are working on their own. That by the time we fully have them, and also using this to plead to, that let's fast track it. I know it takes process, but in it, let everybody take it with all heart and make it.
All right, but we probably will put the question in more detailed perspective. If in a scale of 1 to 100, where will you place Nigeria in the implementation of our SDG goals, 1 to 100?
Oh my God. Okay. When it comes to Nigeria, truly we are still far behind.
Somebody said we've not even started the journey.
Yeah, we are still far behind. I won't even be able to say this should be the digit at the moment.
So from 1 to 100?
It's quite.
You give us a figure.
Don't let me put myself on that spot at the moment. But truly, that is why I call it the slight edge move. It's truly appalling when it comes to Nigeria in context regarding SDGs, right? Especially when you start looking at the successes of other countries out of Nigeria, that's out of Africa at large, where they've implemented certain actions. When it comes to climate, and we are talking about zero emissions, this and that they've gone, right? And here we are just starting, right? When other countries are already at using electric vehicles, I would say Nigeria has not even started. We are just getting to have some few people have that, right? We just started with the CNG push as at December last year, right? So you see that it's still a long way to go when it comes to that everybody could now say they are converting their vehicle to CNG, right? Or those who have the capacity to go for electric vehicles could go for electric vehicles, right? And as a means of reducing the carbon emission. Those are one. And secondly, is industries also implementing net zero in the course of their production, right? In the course of their production. For the few industries that is left, that they should still ensure that in the course of their production, they ensure that they reduce the level of their carbon emissions. Yes.
All right, so Bolu, I asked you to grade between 200. First, because I want to hear from you. You are more of the field person. Are we ready for the conversation as a nation around SDG, Sustainability Developmental Goals? Are we ready for that conversation as a nation? 2, is the SDG in Nigeria, as an advocate, if you want to rate it, will you say that the whole SDG is a make-believe or a scam, the way it's being received in Nigeria, especially within the practitioners of the implementers of the SDG goals? Looking at all of this, you are on the field. What is your take generally on all of this conversation?
Okay. So your first question, please again. Sorry.
All right. So the first question is to find out from you, are we ready for the SDG conversation?
We have no other place to go. We are on this set, right? So there's no place we are running to. So because of that, we had no choice to be ready for it.
But as it stands now, are we ready?
Push are ongoing. And
the SDG goals when was it initiated?
Okay, that was 2015, right?
It was given a mandate to end by 2030. And right now, we know that 10 years has gone. And the growth seems to be stunted. I might be wrong, because you said a lot of policies are going on the ground that is not in the open. Of course, let's believe that a lot of things are going on. But when you look at it, in terms of its implementation and its the policy framework, do you think that we are ready for the SDG conversation, if after 10 years?
Yeah, truly, we are ready for it. Because we've seen the way government now takes this, right? And based on the advocacy so far that we've been pushing out there, we know that you can't run away from this conversation, right? We just have to push it to their neck.
Or should we say the advocacy is not advocating? Or the advocacy is not enough? That's why for 10 years, we cannot pinpoint to practical demonstration of the implementation of the SDG even in Nigeria.
You won't say there is no level of implementation so far.
Okay, let's say low level of implementation. Permit me to use that word.
Okay. As it may, right? Still, the push is ongoing, and we've begin to see institutions buying into the conversation, right? I was looking at one of my colleagues who was just appointed as an SSA regarding SDGs, like they just structured a body in Benue State, for example, focusing on SDG. I just came on board. Right?
After 10 years.
That was why I said it's a slight edge approach. The place of political will is very, very important. That is why we say all this boils down to the citizens. If we all take the conversation, as I've rightly said, in us getting ourselves exposed to what SDG is all about, right, as citizens, then the push from, be it from the primary, where we started the primary that is the primary, secondary, right, and everybody are like conversant with this, know what it means if we fail not to take, let's say, for example, climate change seriously. So when we fail to take climate change seriously, right? But now that we all know what climate change is, let me back on the right now. When we all know what climate change is, in the course of our push during election, the place of political will I'm talking about, anybody coming in to take up such offices, part of the criteria that we need to look at is their blueprint based on this climate, on these SDGs. These are social amenities conversations, right? But are these people ready for it? So if you are seeing someone that is not making use of that as a parameter for conversation and actually telling us that this is his plan or a plan in resuming into that office, then we are not going to vote for him. We did that in 2022-2023 election, advocating to people, right? That anyone coming on board that doesn't make that as their principle is not worthy to be voted for, because we know the effects of climate change. Yeah, SDG at large.
All right, I've been signaled right now that it's time for us to go, but before I let you go, just a final question, Bolu. Can you give us a time frame? Perhaps Nigerians want to hear from you, and viewers across the world want to hear from you right now. Of course, you've said we're making progress, but then, looking at the 17 goals, is there a time frame for us to begin to see more implementation, even on the limelight?
Yes.
So would there be, so let's say, are you giving us 2 years, 1 year, 1 month, 2 days? How long should we give the advocacy, and also how long should we give the advocators to be able to, for us to begin to hold them responsible and hold certain people responsible in terms of, if we don't get to see this, we'll say, okay, Bolu said after 3 years, we'll get to see practical demonstration. Is there a time frame for this?
Already there is a time frame, that is 2030.
Leave Nigeria. Of course, we have told you that the implementation tends to be very low, slow. Look, let's hear from you right now. If you want to give us a time frame for implementation right now, going with our own reality, what would that time frame be?
Okay. Based on where we are as a nation.
But you don't need to answer me if you don't want to answer me.
Yeah,
you can skip the question if you're not sure of the time frame. Of course, you are not the mouthpiece of the government.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
So if you don't want, it's fine. If you don't want to answer me.
Sure. But what I will add to that is that the advocacy should keep moving, right? And that people should take this seriously. When we take it seriously, for it to now move at the pace we expect, right, will be seamless for us, right?
Quite a lot of things to discuss with Bolu, even here on the desk. First of all, I wanted us to get to the statistics of some of the things that we've been able to gather. So talking about the advocacy and looking at new dimension and paradigm shift in terms of advocacy to enhance the advocacy strategy, even in Nigeria, if that could help. But then our time is fast spent. I guess we'll have to bring Bolu back again to the station so that we look at all of this angle. But I want to say thank you so much for being a part of the show, Bolu. Thank you for having me. Well, viewers, this is how far we can go this evening. Do remember that you can join the conversation on our various social media handle now showing on your screen using @Global TV NG. You can download the Global TV mobile app on your Android and iOS devices to also keep track of our broadcast. My name is Godwin Sunday. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Till I come your way again, it's bye for now.